You want to learn how to draw like a designer of things and stuff and so? Check this out.
1, 2, 3, jump!
Hello my friends! Welcome back to another episode of Let's Draw with me, Pascal Heinzelmann, and my trusty sidekick, Stock Footage Dog. So last time we were drawing with perspective. We started to draw in the third dimension and we created some cool buildings for our project. Today we want to dive into drawing like a designer, thinking like a designer. And as all good things, it's very easy. You just follow these instructions.
Do you want to be a designer who draws cool stuff, but you just don't know how? Just follow these simple steps so that you can draw cool stuff too. First, you only need to buy exactly these pens. Not this one. Then you should draw only on napkins, because the greatest ideas are born on napkins. Never, I repeat, never think or draw while being in a box. It is advised to wear a turtleneck as much as possible to stimulate the blood flow to your awesome brain. Don't draw on tables, draw on windows. Don't use windows, use an apple. Don't eat an apple, eat a pear. So if you're following these simple steps, you will be great at designing new stuff and things.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was really stupid. But now, to truly draw like a designer, we have to think like a designer. A designer wants to solve problems, and to do so we have to understand what we are drawing. We have to understand its form, its shapes, its functions, and ideally how things are put together. So to practice that, today we will draw reference from different perspectives. This way we not only practice our perspective drawing, but also our mind, our understanding of the objects. And this will increase your visual library way more than just copying reference. Because things you understand, you will remember much longer. And after drawing these references, we will spice up our designs from last week, redraw them, and hopefully make them even cooler than they are. So let's start with the exercise. Stock Footage Dog, can you fetch me some cool objects? Okay, no? Well, I guess we have to find some on our own. This might not be the most amazing object, but it was really fun to draw. Because when you draw like a designer, you really start to understand the object and you can try to make it look interesting. I tried to find interesting angles and I drew explosion views where I dismantled this thing to really understand how it's put together. I mean, I understand how it's put. It's not very complicated, I give you that, but you have to start somewhere, right? So when I drew this, I did not look at a certain perspective and draw it exactly like that. Instead, I studied the object and then tried to construct the box from my memory. I didn't use construction lines, but if you're a beginner, just use construction lines. Use small chicken steps, whatever you need to do. Just try to think like a designer, understand the object, and draw it in perspective in 3-dimensional space. The actual line quality is not that important. Don't care about style, don't care about your lines. Care about the design, its function and its form in 3D space. The next object is this cool microphone. Now this time it has a lot of cylinders, it's a bit more spacey, the other one was kind of medieval. I think it's really cool how this is put together and all the things and stuff it has on it. Let's try to figure it out and draw it a couple times. That was fast. Now my drawings are all a bit wonky and they're far from perfect. It's really hard to draw these ellipses right. But if you don't want to draw freehand, you can use Procreate, which has cool ellipse tools. You can use a 3D program, you can use Photoshop and its ellipse tools. It doesn't really matter. I personally want to learn how to draw intuitively, freehand. That's why I draw freehand without perspective lines. But if you're learning, use perspective lines, try to construct it and really figure out this 3D shape. I started very simple from drawing it from a regular perspective, and then I tried to find these interesting angles, make those explosion views, and it became more and more fun to draw. I now understand how it's put together, and I could probably draw some sort of microphone from memory for the next few, hopefully years, but maybe days. I really believe that this kind of exercises boosts your visual library. You start to understand the things and you can start to draw them from memory easily. So now grab some cool objects and start drawing. Back to our project. Last time we drew the 3 buildings. They belonged to a world that once was inhabited by a highly technological civilization, and somehow now they're back to the medieval ages. And for our Viking-like society that lives on this planet, this leftover technology seems like magic. And they believe it to be the blessings and the curses of the gods. As I said, we want to start redrawing these buildings in the background and make them more interesting. They are all kind of cool and they have a lot of cool parts that we can use for our next drawing. But we want to spice them up and add another layer of storytelling. So today we're going to focus on this house, and it's a hunter's family's house. So these hunters live alone near a forest. They don't really use this crazy technology that it's laying around. So our starting point in this world is very detached from this technological part. It's way more magical if it's rare. Things that you see all the time are just physics. If water would flow upwards all the time, we would just get used to it and it would be normal. But it doesn't, it flows down. So if we see it flow up once, it's magical. That's why I don't want to overdo the technology part in the beginning so that it feels more magical. Like the lightsabers in the first few parts and the Jedis, they were way more mystical than in the later parts when they were omnipresent and they were everywhere. They were just part of the world. So we keep this part in this concept. We don't know what it actually does, but we know it glows in the dark. So our hunters, they use it like our ancestors used the moon. They use it for hunting. So a lot of animals are active at night, so you need some kind of light source for hunting. This super advanced technology that probably has some crazy function is just a light source for hunting. Overall, I want to make it look a little more makeshift. It looks very regular and symmetric, and I want to break it up. I want to add way more props, maybe some primitive cooking station, storage, hanging fish, baskets, all that cool stuff that brings life to this world. I'm probably gonna fuse it with this concept. I really like how this one is built into the floor. So in a sense, they're building into the environment to be hidden, so that the animals are not scared of this place and they can attract them and hunt them down. That's what they do. Sorry, vegans. I'm happy. I'm happy with this. We have the little cooking station. We have some log chopping station. We see the storage. We see some hunting practice going on. We even have a hunting tower, which I think is really cool. There is a basement. There is an upper floor. We see the use of fur. So they use a lot of leather and fur because they're hunters. Of course they would use leather and fur. They even have leather and fur as a door or as a window. I like that little bridge they built here. Well, I drew it. I think it's really cool how this roof is connected to the floor and the ladder goes all the way up to the hunting tower. Overall, it's way more successful than the last try, I think. Let's compare those. Now, from a drawing perspective, I think this one works a little better because we have these very dark spots. So what I'm gonna do with this one is give it a wash, which means I use some gray ink to add some shadow so that it's more readable, it's more understandable, also from far away. But from a design point of view, from a story point of view, this is way more interesting. We get the character of this family, how they work, they have some makeshift stuff, they use some trees as part of the building, they have some sort of plants hanging everywhere, so we know they're also gatherers, they're not just hunters, they're gatherers, maybe one of them is vegan. And it's just more alive and more interesting. Now this one, that's one I still want to do. So next episode or in between episodes, I don't know yet, I will also redo this one with the same amount of detail, more layers of storytelling. But this guy is not going to be from our hunters family. This one is from the infamous arch tribe that I mentioned once or twice. But I already have some cool ideas of what we can do with this building at the cliff. I think it's going to be awesome. So before we finish it up, let's add a wash to this drawing. Much better. Now that we have a wash, we clearly see the three-dimensional structure, we see all the details, and it's just overall much more readable. I like it. I like it much better than the one from last week. It's not perfect yet, but it's pretty good. Remember, this is still just a concept, it's a design, it's not a drawing of a scene that's supposed to be a beautiful composition, and for that, I think we've done a pretty good job. Anything to add, stock footage dog? Then I say goodbye, and until next time, bye! More magical, like the laser, wie heißt die? Lightsaber.